I froze the moment the police officer said his full name, Jake Miller. My ex, the man who had looked me in the face and told me to get rid of our baby, was now being led out of a glass office tower in handcuffs, his expensive suit wrinkled, his mouth hanging open like he still could not understand how the world had turned on him. And I was the one who made the call. Vanessa was right behind him, wobbling on heels too high for a scene like that, shrieking at the officers, at the investors, at anyone who would still listen. Her lipstick was perfect, her life was not. Cameras flashed near the entrance. Someone from inside the building whispered Jake's name like it had already become a scandal. I stood across the street with one hand resting over the small curve of my stomach and the other wrapped around a paper cup of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. Jake lifted his head. His eyes found mine through the crowd. For 1 second, I saw it all hit him at once. The fear, the shame, the memory of me. He stopped walking. One officer shoved him forward again, but Jake still twisted enough to stare like he had seen a ghost rise up from the dirt. I do not move. I do not wave. I do not speak. I just watch, because this moment, this is not an accident. This is not luck. This is not karma magically appearing out of nowhere. This is something I built, slowly, quickly, piece by piece. And if you are wondering how a broke, pregnant taxi driver ends up destroying a man like Jake Miller, you need to hear what happened before this, because I was not always this cold. I used to be the kind of woman who believed in love, the kind who thought if you worked hard enough, loved deeply enough, stayed loyal enough, things would work out. I was wrong. A few months earlier, I was sitting on an overturned bucket in a greasy garage, holding a cup of cheap coffee, and pretending my life had not just fallen apart. Ben sat across from me, chewing on a burrito, watching me in that quiet way of his, like he already knew something was wrong but was waiting for me to say it first. Well, he said finally, wiping his hands on a rag, if that fiancé of yours does not appreciate you, that is on him. I will say it again. He is a fool. I forced a smile. It felt stiff, fake. We are not talking about him, I said. Let us just drink our coffee. Ben raised both hands like he was surrendering. All right, all right. We sat there in silence after that, just the hum of tools, the smell of oil, the kind of quiet that only exists when something heavy is sitting between two people and neither one wants to touch it. But my mind would not stay quiet. It kept going back to that night. 2 pink lines, that tiny plastic stick shaking in my hand. The way my heart had pounded so hard, I thought it might crack my ribs open from the inside. I had laughed at first. Can you believe that? I actually laughed. Then I called Jake. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. Again, nothing. By the 3rd day, something inside me had started to sink. Not slowly, not gently. It dropped like a stone. He was not coming back. And the worst part? I think I knew it before I admitted it to myself. I pulled my hoodie tighter around my body, like I could hide everything that was happening inside me. No one at work could know, not Ben, not anyone. And definitely not Armand, the owner, had one rule above everything else. No problems, no distractions, no liability. I had seen him fire a guy for showing up late twice in 1 week. If he found out I was pregnant, I would be gone before the end of the day. And I could not afford that. Not now, not ever. Bills did not stop because your life fell apart. The speaker crackled overhead. Amber, you are up Keelant downtown. 20 minutes. I stood up too fast. The world tilted for a second. I grabbed the edge of the workbench until it steadied. Ben frowned. Hey, you all right? I am fine, I said quickly. Lie. I grabbed my keys and headed for the cab. Take it easy out there, he called after me. And eat something today. Coffee does not count. I lifted a hand without turning around. The engine roared to life under my hands. Taw familiar, hauled, predictable. Unlike everything else in my life, as I pulled out of the garage, I placed one hand on the steering wheel and the other, slowly, carefully, on my stomach. It is just you and me, I whispered. The words felt strange, heavy, real. We are going to make it. Traffic blurred past, red lights, green lights, faces I would never see again. But my mind drifted, back to before everything broke. Back to Fort Collins, small town, quiet streets, people who waved even if they did not know you. My mom died when I was 5. Kidney failure. Quick, cruel. One day she was there, the next, she was gone. I never knew my father, so it was just me and my grandfather, Hank Bennett. He did not say much, but when he did, you listened. His hands were rough, scarred, always smelled like oil and dirt. He taught me how to fix things before I even understood why things broke. Take care of your own wheels, kid, he used to say. Then nobody gets to decide where you go. I held on to that, maybe too tightly, because the day after I graduated high school, I left. I thought I could go anywhere. I thought I was ready. Denver proved me wrong fast. It was loud, expensive, unforgiving. I rented a tiny room in a boarding house that smelled like old carpet and regret. Got a job at a diner. Long hours. Grease in my hair. Tips that barely covered rent. And that is where I met Jake Miller. He came in every day at noon. Same order, black coffee, turkey sandwich. At first, he barely looked at me, just another customer. Then one day, he smiled. Just a little. Then a little more. Then he started staying longer. Asking questions. Listening to my answers like they mattered. You know how that feels? When someone looks at you like you are not invisible. Yeah. That was my second mistake. The first was saying yes when he asked me out. It felt like something good, finally. He said all the right things. He liked that I worked hard. He admired that I was independent. He said I was different from other women. I believed him. Of course I did. Within months, he was helping with rent, bringing groceries, fixing small things around the room like he belonged there. Eventually, he did. He moved in. And for a while, it felt like a life, a real one. So when I found out I was pregnant, Abby was scared, but I was also happy. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at that test, already imagining his reaction. He would smile. He would pull me close. He would say, "We will figure it out." Right? That is what good men do. That is what I told myself. But when I showed him, he did not smile. He froze. "You are sure?" he asked. Like I had just accused him of something. I laughed nervously. "Of course I am sure. Jake, this is our baby. We need to." He shook his head hard. "Amber, we are not ready for this." Something in my chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "I mean it is too soon," he snapped. "I thought you were taking care of it. You know, birth control." The room went quiet, too quiet. I tried to reach for him. "We can figure it out. Together, we always do." But he stepped back, actually stepped back, like I was the problem. That night, he barely spoke. The next morning, he did not kiss me goodbye. And then, he was gone. No calls, no texts. Nothing. Days passed. Then 3, then 4. Every call went straight to voicemail. I told myself he was scared, that he just needed time, that he would come back. People always say that, right? That men panic and then come around. But deep down, I felt it. Something had already broken. I just did not know how badly yet. And then, 3 days later, I saw him again, not at home, not walking through the door with an apology, but outside a boutique downtown, logging, with another woman, Vanessa Brooks, perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect smile. The kind of woman who had never worried about rent a day in her life. Jake had his arm around her waist. Like I had never existed. Like the life we built meant nothing. I stopped walking. My whole body went cold. He saw me. For a second. Just a second. I thought he would come to me. Explain, fix it. Instead, he stepped in front of her. "Amber, what are you doing here?" Sharp, defensive. Like I was the one who did something wrong. My voice came out before I could stop it. "I am pregnant, Jake. With your child. We need to talk." Vanessa laughed, soft, cruel. "Pregnant," she repeated, looking me up and down. "With his child." Her eyes dragged over me like I was something dirty. "Sweetheart," she said, "you need to move on. Jake has." Jake flinched, but he did not deny it. He just said, "Amber, we talked about this." "No." I snapped. "You ran. You disappeared. You left me wondering if you were dead or if you just did not care." My voice cracked. His smile dropped. I hated that. Vanessa crossed her arms. "Whatever this is," she said coldly, "it is over. He is with me now. So why do not you take care of your little problem and stop embarrassing yourself? Little problem. My stomach twisted. I looked at Jake waiting, begging, just say something, anything, and then he said it. She is right. My heart stopped. We are not in a place for this, he continued. You should do what is best. I whispered. What are you saying? He exhaled like I was exhausting him. Get rid of it. Silence, heavy, crushing. Did he really just say that? Did the man I loved, the man I trusted, just tell me to erase our child like it was nothing? Something inside me snapped. My hand moved before I could think. The crack echoed louder than I expected. His head jerked to the side. You coward, I whispered. My whole body was shaking. You do not deserve to be anyone's father, Vanessa gasped. Jake touched his cheek, stunned, then his expression hardened. Just go home, Amber, he said. This is over. I stood there for 1 second longer, then I turned and walked away. I do not remember how I got home. I just remember the bathroom floor, cold tile, my knees pulled to my chest, my arms wrapped around myself like I could hold everything together. I picked up my phone once, dialed a number, a clinic. My finger hovered over the call button, then slowly. I placed my hand over my stomach. I am sorry, I whispered. Tears blurred everything. I cannot lose you too. And in that moment, everything changed. I thought surviving alone would be the hardest thing I would ever have to do. I was wrong, because a few weeks later, I found something that would change everything. I thought driving a cab would keep my mind busy. I was wrong. It gave my thoughts more space to haunt me. The first week, I barely noticed the city. I drove. I picked up passengers. I dropped them off. Repeat, my body moved, my brain did not. Morning sickness hit at the worst times, sometimes in traffic, sometimes right before a pickup. I learned how to breathe through it, learned how to swallow it down and smile like nothing was wrong. Because if anyone noticed, I was done. Armand had cameras in every car. He liked to remind us of that, said it kept people honest. What it really did, it kept people scared. You look pale, Ben muttered one morning, handing me a bottle of water. I am fine, I said. Lie again. You keep saying that, he replied, watching me too closely. I forced a smile and grabbed my keys. I have a long shift. I will eat later. I did not. Food tasted like cardboard, or worse, it came right back up. But I kept driving because I had no choice. Every mile was rent. Every ride was survival. And every night, when I got home, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying his words. Get rid of it. Over and over, like a blade dragging across the same wound. Then one afternoon, everything shifted. It was supposed to be just another ride. Downtown pickup. Business district. The kind of client who does not talk much and tips even less. He got in without looking at me. Mid-40s, expensive suit, phone glued to his ear. Yes, send me the full file, he snapped. I want everything before the signing. Signing. I did not think much of it. People like him were always signing something. Contracts deals. Lives away. The ride was short. 10 minutes, maybe 15. He barely acknowledged me when we arrived. Threw some cash in the cup holder and rushed out, still talking. I pulled away. 2 blocks later, I noticed the bag. Leather. Sleek, definitely not mine. Great, I muttered. I pulled over, picked it up. Heavy. I hesitated, then opened it just enough to find an ID, and that is when I saw it. A stack of documents, clean organized, official at the top. A company name, Miller & Co., my breath caught. No, that could not be. I flipped the page, then another, and there it was, Jake Miller. My grip tightened around the papers. What the hell? I should have closed the bag. I should have called dispatch. I should have returned it without looking further. But I did not, because something felt off. I scanned the page, numbers, contracts, signatures. Then one line caught my eye. A signature, but not just any signature. It looked wrong, messy, like someone trying too hard to copy something they did not fully understand. I frowned, flipped another page, another signature. Same thing. Almost identical. Too identical. My heart started beating faster. I had seen enough paperwork growing up with Grandpa to recognize something when it felt off. This? This felt very off. I kept reading, and the deeper I went, the colder I felt. Fake authorizations, inflated numbers, money moving between accounts that did not make sense. And Jake's name, everywhere. No way, I whispered. This was not just shady. This was illegal. Fraud, at best. Something worse. At worst. I sat there in the driver's seat, the city moving around me like nothing had changed. But everything had. Because suddenly, Jake was not just the man who abandoned me. He was a man standing on a cliff, and he did not even know it. My hands started to shake. I shoved the documents back into the bag, closed it, hard. Not my problem, I said out loud, right? This had nothing to do with me. I just needed to return it, forge it, I ever saw it. Keep my head down, survive. That was the plan. That was always the plan. But then, his voice echoed in my head. Get rid of it. I clenched my jaw. My hand moved slowly, back to the bag. Opened it again, looked at the documents. Really looked this time. And something inside me shifted. It was not loud, not dramatic. It did not explode. It just hardened, like wet cement turning into stone. I was done being the girl he abandoned. Done being the one who cried on bathroom floors. Done being the one who lost everything. If he wanted me to erase something, then maybe it was time I erased something too. Something bigger. Something he actually cared about, his future. I took out my phone, hands still shaking. Took pictures, every page. Every signature, every number. Click, click. Each photo felt like crossing a line I could not uncross. Good. I did not want to go back. When I finished, I closed the bag again and leaned back in my seat, breathing hard. What are you doing? I whispered to myself. No answer. Just the sound of my own heartbeat. Fast, loud, alive, for the first time in weeks. I did not feel weak. I felt dangerous. That night, I went to Ben's place. Carla opened the door and immediately pulled me into a hug. You look exhausted, she said softly. I need help, I replied. Ben looked up from the table. What kind of help? I placed the bag down between us, and for the first time, I told someone everything, not just about Jake. About the documents, the fraud, the signatures. The silence that followed was heavy. Ben leaned back slowly. Amber, this is serious. I know. You could get in trouble just for having this. I know. Carla squeezed my hand. Then why are you keeping it? I swallowed. Because I finally had something. Something he could not run from. Something he could not ignore. I am not doing anything yet, I said carefully. That was the truth, mostly. I just need to understand what this is. Ben exchanged a look with Carla, then he nodded. I might know someone, he said. A lawyer, not cheap, but good. Can you connect me? He studied my face for a long second. You are not just trying to understand this, are you? I held his gaze, did not smile, did not look away. No, I said quietly, I am not. Something in his expression shifted, not fear, not exactly. More like realization. All right, he said slowly. Then if you are going to do this, you do it smart. Carla nodded. No risks, no rushing. I took a breath deep, steady. I am not rushing, I said. And for the first time since everything fell apart. I meant it, because this was not about survival anymore. This was something else. Something colder. Something sharper. And as I sat there, staring at those documents again, one small detail caught my eye. A date hided, circled. My pulse quickened. What is it? Ben asked. I turned the page toward him. That, I said, the biggest deal of his life. Silence, then slowly a smile. Not a happy one, a knowing one. Because in that moment, I knew exactly when to destroy him. I stopped thinking like a victim. I started thinking like a strategist. The difference? One survives, the other waits. The next few weeks became a blur of exhaustion and calculation. By day, I drove. By night, I studied. Documents, laws, financial terms I had never cared about before. I sat at Ben's kitchen table with a cheap laptop, replaying everything the lawyer told me until it stopped sounding like a foreign language. Fraud, misrepresentation, forgery. Each word felt heavy, each one dangerous. Timing is everything. The lawyer had said during our first meeting he was a quiet man, careful with his words. You go too early. He slips out, he told me. You go too late. The damage spreads. So I wait, I said. He nodded. And when you move, you do not miss. I did not miss. Because while I was building my case, Jake was building his illusion. His name started showing up more. Articles, business pages, small interviews. Rising executive. Promising deal. I almost laughed the first time I saw it. If only they knew. One afternoon, I picked up a fare outside a luxury hotel. And guess who stepped out? Vanessa. Of course. Perfect timing. She slid into the back seat without even looking at me. Downtown, she said, distracted, scrolling through her phone. I said nothing, just drove. 2 minutes passed, then 3. Then she glanced up. Our eyes met in the mirror. Recognition hit her like a slap. Oh, she said slowly. That smile, sharp, sweet fake. Well, look at this. I tightened my grip on the wheel. Stay calm. Stay quiet. She leaned forward slightly. You are still doing this, she asked, glancing around the cab. Driving people around all day? I did not answer. She laughed softly. I guess that makes sense. Not everyone can move on. There it was, the bait. I ignored it, watched the road, counted the seconds, but she was not done. Her eyes dropped to my stomach, just for a second, then back up. Still pregnant? She asked lightly. Wow, she continued. That is a choice. Silence filled the car, heavy, sharp. She leaned back again, satisfied. Honestly, Amber, she added, almost bored. You should have listened. It would have made your life a lot easier. My foot pressed harder on the gas. Not enough to be dangerous, just enough to remind myself I was still in control. Because every part of me wanted to stop the car, turn around, say something, do something. But I did not, because I was not that girl anymore. When we reached her stop, she stepped out like nothing had happened. Before closing the door, she leaned back in. One piece of advice, she said, tilting her head. Stop chasing people who have already upgraded. Click, the door shut. I sat there for a long second. Hands gripping the wheel so tight, my knuckles turned white. Then slowly, I exhaled. Upgrade, I whispered. The word tasted bitter. Good, let it. Because that moment, that humiliation, that quiet rage sitting in my chest, that was fuel. And I was going to use every drop of it. That night, I met with the lawyer again. I laid everything out, the documents, the photos, the connections. He reviewed them carefully, page by page, no reactions, no comments, just silence. Then finally he leaned back. This is enough, he said. My heart skipped. Enough for what? He looked at me directly. To bury him. The room went still. But, he added, holding up a finger, only if we do this right. I nodded. Tell me. He tapped one document. This deal he is about to sign, he said. This is the key. I leaned forward. It is big, he continued. Public. Investors. Media. I felt it. The shift. This was it. If we move during the signing, he said, there is no damage control. No hiding. Everything collapses at once. A slow chill ran through me. Public, I repeated. He nodded. Public. I thought about Jake standing there, confident smiling, untouchable, and then falling, right in front of everyone. My pulse quickened. What do you need from me? I asked. Patience, he said, and precision. I could do both. Because I had already been patient. Through the silence, through the betrayal, through the nights I cried myself to sleep. Now I was ready to be precise. The days leading up to the event felt different, sharper. Every detail mattered. I gathered everything, organized it, prepared statements, reviewed timelines, Ben helped where he could. Carla made sure I actually ate. You cannot destroy someone on an empty stomach, she said, sliding a plate toward me. I almost smiled, almost. But underneath all of it, my body was starting to betray me. Fatigue hit harder, nausea worse. One morning, I had to pull over mid-shift just to breathe. Armin noticed. Of course he did. You slowing down? He asked later, arms crossed. No, I said quickly. His eyes narrowed. I do not tolerate weakness, he said. You understand that, yes. Lie. But it would not matter soon, because I was close. So close. Then finally, the day came, the biggest deal of Jake's life. The one that would make him untouchable, or destroy him, Dakash crackled through the speaker. Amber, pickup request, corporate event, downtown conference center. My hands stilled, slowly. I reached for the radio. Copy that, I said. My voice was steady, too steady. The address came through. I already knew it. Of course I did. I had memorized every detail, every entrance, every exit, every second. As I drove toward the building, the city felt different, quieter, like it was holding its breath. My heart pounded in my chest. Not from fear, not anymore. From anticipation. This was it. No more waiting, no more silence, no more being the one left behind. I pulled up to the entrance. Suits, cameras, polished glass, reflecting everything and nothing. People stepped out of my cab, one after another. Important people. Powerful people. All walking into the same room where Jake was about to sign his future and lose it. I parked the car, turned off the engine, sat there for a moment, just breathing. Then I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over the screen. One call. That was all it would take. I closed my eyes for 1 second, and in that darkness, I heard his voice again. Get rid of it. My eyes snapped open, cold, clear, done. I pressed the button. Do it, I said. Then I stepped out of the car and walked toward the building, right into the end of his world. The moment I stepped inside, I could feel it. Power, money, ego. It hung in the air like expensive perfume. The conference hall was massive. Glass walls, marble floors, people in tailored suits, moving like they owned the world. Jake's world, for now. I kept my head down and walked past them like I belonged there. No one stopped me. No one ever looks twice at someone they think is invisible. That used to hurt. Now? It was useful. At the front of the room, a stage had been set. Large screen. Microphones were rows of seats filled with investors and executives. And there he was, Jake Miller, standing under the lights like he had already won. Perfect suit, perfect smile. Vanessa stood beside him, glowing in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her hand rested lightly on his arm, like she was already part of his future. I stopped walking, just for a second, and watched. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake began, his voice smooth, confident, practiced. Today marks a turning point, not just for our company, but for everyone in this room. Applause, of course, he fed off it. I could see it in the way his shoulders straightened, the way his chin lifted just slightly higher. He believed this moment belonged to him. He believed he had made it. I moved closer. Blending into the side of the room, close enough to see, close enough to hear, far enough to remain unseen. For years, he continued, we have worked toward this partnership, and today we finalize a deal that will redefine our position in the market. Another wave of approval. Investors nodded. Phones recorded. Everything was perfect, exactly how he wanted it, exactly how I needed it, because the higher he climbed, the harder he would fall. Jake turned slightly, gesturing toward the contract placed neatly on the table. This agreement, he said, represents trust, growth, and a future we are building together. Trust, the word almost made me laugh. My fingers curled slightly at my side. Not yet, wait. Let it peak. Let him believe. Let him sign. A man in a dark suit stepped forward, one of the lead investors. He shook Jake's hand. Congratulations, he said. Cameras flashed. Vanessa beamed. Jake picked up the pen. This was it. The exact second my lawyer had talked about. The moment where everything was irreversible. Except it was not. Not for me. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone. The call had already been made. Now, we wait. Jake lowered the pen toward the paper. And then, Mr. Miller. The voice cut through the room like a blade. Sharp, authoritative. Everything stopped. Jake froze mid-motion. Slowly, he looked up. 2 uniformed officers stood at the entrance. Behind them, more. The room shifted instantly. Confusion, whispers. What is this? Someone muttered. Jake forced a smile. Gentlemen, he said, trying to recover. We are in the middle of. Jake Miller. One officer interrupted, stepping forward. The name landed heavy. You are under investigation for financial fraud, forgery, and misrepresentation of corporate assets. Silence. Cleep total. The kind of silence that suffocates. Jake blinked once, twice. "This is a mistake," he said quickly, too quickly. "There must be." "Sir," the officer continued, "we have a warrant." Vanessa's grip tightened on his arm. "What is he talking about?" she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. Jake shook his head. "This is nothing," he said, louder now. "A misunderstanding. I will have my lawyer. Turn around." The command echoed. Firm, unavoidable, the room erupted. What is happening? Is this real? Fraud? Phones lifted higher. Cameras flashed faster. Jake stepped back, just one step, but it was enough. Enough to show fear. And I saw it clear as day, the moment he realized this was not going away. "This is ridiculous," he snapped, voice cracking now. "You cannot just walk in here and—" The officer stepped closer. "Sir, do not make this harder than it needs to be." Vanessa let go of his arm, just like that, like he burned. Jake turned, and that is when he saw me, across the room, still, watching, our eyes locked. Recognition hit, hard. His face drained of color, amber. He breathed, there it was, the connection. The realization, the truth crashing into him all at once. He took a step toward me. "Amber, what is this?" he demanded. "What did you do?" I did not move, did not rush, did not react. I simply walked forward slow, steady. Every step deliberate. The room parted slightly. People sensed something. They always do. I stopped a few feet in front of him. Close enough now. Close enough for him to see everything. Not the girl he left. Not the one who cried. Someone else. Someone colder. "No, Jake," I said quietly. My voice did not shake. Not even a little. I did not do anything. He stared at me, desperate now, confused. Then I tilted my head slightly and finished it. "You did this." Silence, heavy, crushing. "The moment you told me," I continued, my hand resting lightly over my stomach, "to erase my child." His eyes dropped, followed the movement, saw it, really saw it, for the first time. "You signed the end of your own life." The words landed, and something inside him broke. "No," he whispered. "No, Amber, listen." The officer stepped in, firm hands on his arms, cold metal clicking into place, handcuffs. The sound echoed louder than anything else in the room. Vanessa stepped back further, her face twisted. Shock, disgust, calculation. "How bad is this?" she asked sharply. No one answered. She looked at Jake, then at the officers, then back at him. And just like that, she let go completely. "I cannot be part of this," she said, stepping away. Of course she could not. She was never there for him, only for what he had. And now, he had nothing. "Vanessa," Jake started, but she was already gone, walking away without looking back, just like he did. Funny how that works. Jake struggled slightly. "Amber, please," he said, his voice breaking now. "You cannot do this to me." I met his eyes, calm, unmoved. "You did it to yourself." And then I stepped aside. The officers led him past me. Out of the room, out of his deal, out of his future. Cameras followed, voices rose. Everything collapsed behind him, and I stood there, in the middle of it all, breathing, alive, frei, for the first time in months. My chest did not hurt. I thought that would be the end. I really did. But I was wrong, because karma. It was not done with him yet. For a while, everything was quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm has torn everything apart and left nothing standing. Jake's name disappeared from headlines almost as fast as it had appeared. But not before the damage was done. Fraud, forgery, misuse of funds. The words followed him everywhere. Investors pulled out. The company collapsed, lawsuits stacked on top of each other, like bricks sealing his fate. I heard things. People talk, especially drivers. Some guy got arrested mid-deal. One passenger said casually one afternoon. Lost everything in a day. I kept my eyes on the road, said nothing. But inside, I remembered every second, every word, every look on his face when it all came crashing down. And still, life did not stop because revenge, it does not pay your rent. It does not cook your meals. It does not carry you through pregnancy when your body feels like it is no longer yours. The months that followed were harder than anything before. My body changed slowly. Then all at once, the fatigue deepened. The nights got longer. Some mornings, I could barely stand without holding on to something, but I kept going. Because now, I was not just surviving, I was building something. For someone, Ben and Carla never left my side. Not once. Carla started leaving meals in my fridge. Real meals, not the cheap stuff I used to live on. "You are eating for two now," she would say, hands on her hips, like arguing was not an option. Ben fixed things around my place without asking. A broken light, a loose cabinet, small things. But they mattered because for the first time in a long time, I was not alone. And then, one night, everything changed again. The pain started suddenly, sharp deep. It took my breath away. I gripped the edge of the table. "Not yet," I whispered. But my body did not care what I wanted. By the time we got to the hospital, I could barely think. Hours blurred together, voices, lights, movement, and then a cry small, fragile, but louder than anything I had ever heard. They placed him in my arms, my son, warm, real, alive. I stared at him like I could not believe he existed, like if I blinked too long he might disappear. "You made it," I whispered. My voice broke. "We made it." And in that moment, everything else faded. Jake, Vanessa, the anger, the pain, it was still there. But it did not own me anymore, because this was bigger. This was something no one could take from me. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Life settled into something new, not easy, but steady. I drove less, worked smarter, saved more. Every decision had a purpose now. Every step had direction. Then one afternoon, my phone rang, unreal number. I almost ignored it, almost, but something made me answer. "Hello?" Silence then. "Amber." My body went still. I knew that voice, even broken, even weaker. "Jake, of course." "Amber, please," he said quickly. "Do not hang up." I said nothing. I just listened. I need help," he continued. "Everything is gone. I lost my job, the court, they took everything. I have nothing left." His voice cracked. "I made a mistake," he said. "I know that now. I need a chance, please." I looked down at my son, sleeping peacefully in his crib, so small, so innocent, so completely untouched by the mess his father created. Jake's breathing filled the silence on the other end, waiting, hoping, maybe even believing that I would save him, just like I used to. I let a few seconds pass. Then I spoke, calm, steady, clear. "You told me to erase my child," I said. Silence heavy. "I chose not to," I continued. Another pause, longer this time. "And now," I added quietly, "you have to live with your choice." He inhaled sharply. "Amber, please." I ended the call, just like that. No anger. No yelling, no hesitation. Just done. I placed the phone down, walked over to the crib, and gently adjusted the blanket around my son. He stirred slightly, then settled again. That was all I ever wanted. Not revenge, not power, not even justice, just this. A life that no one could take from me, a future that no one could erase. I stood there for a long moment, watching him breathe, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt something I almost forgot existed. Peace. Not perfect, not complete, but real. And that was enough. If someone told you to erase your child, would you forgive them, or would you make sure? They never forget what they did.